Well, hello, and welcome to Chats con Sabor, where three different ladies, friends, colleagues get together and talk about life and our different opinions. And this is an opportunity for our listeners to be part of these conversations. What it would look like to be a fly on our wall. This is our second test run. We're excited. We are happy with what's coming. And today's topic, we feel like talking about feminine and masculine energy and what that looks like, a little bit of our experience, our opinions, and the different things that affect us.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for the introduction, Linda. That was our friend Linda. I'll start off the topic. I feel like, or start off the conversation.
And that's Yvette talking.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it's me, Yvette. We weren't going to introduce ourselves like every single episode, but here we are. Yeah. So I think with feminine and masculine energy, obviously we all have men and women, male and females, we have both masculine and feminine energy, right? And I think it's kind of tough for us sometimes to master both. Women, I think, are sometimes in certain relationships thrown into their masculine energy or masculine side and kind of have to really foster that. But I think that maybe sometimes we use it as a crutch, or we can get lost in that masculine side of us because we're burdened with responsibilities and children, careers, everyday life, being a wife, being a mom, being a woman, being a friend, being a daughter, whatever it is. But sometimes too much masculine energy can be detrimental to our relationships. What do you girls think?
And our mental health,
Yes, absolutely.
for sure. I think that as single moms, sometimes, as even married women or men, taking on all of the responsibilities and always having to be there for everyone around you. And I think a lot of it comes from your childhood too, on which side you're going to take. It's also a protection mechanism that we use, letting others not in, or telling people we don't need them when we have that masculine, energy that's set forth before the feminine. I think that's my opinion.
No, yes, I totally agree. I think, at least in my life, I think I spent a lot of years on my full blown masculine side, and it was all a protective mechanism. I didn't want to continue getting hurt, and I think for a lot of women, I think we would agree of, okay, we're tired of people not coming through, so we had to come through for ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And although that's necessary, and we needed that to come out of that funk, you could say, there comes a point where we have to say, okay, that was necessary for that scenario, for that point of life, for that season. But now we have to come back and rebalance ourselves out, because we're not going to get rid of it, but we have to bring back the feminine side and, kind of get in tune with their spirit.
Right. I completely agree with that. As you were talking, I'm kind of thinking, I think a lot of it also has to do with some trauma, childhood traumas, maybe that we were, born into, or that we experienced when we were kids. Maybe not having, like in my case, not having, my father figure, not having my biological father in my life. I did have a father figure, my grandfather, but I knew he was my grandfather and not my father. So I think it takes, we kind of take on the burdens sometimes as children, and then we carry it into adulthood. What do you guys think about passing that trauma on down to our children, though, like say our daughters or our sons, I have a son and two daughters, so I know for sure I must have passed some sort of, I want to say dysfunction, but not in a derogatory way. It's just saying, whatever I grew up with, whatever I had to endure as a child, taking it into womanhood and then passing it along to my children. I don't know. I mean, maybe I didn't learn early enough in life to kind of heal that trauma. I mean, my kids are doing well,
Yeah.
Let me throw that out there. My kids are doing well, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like kind of generations. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really had this conversation with my mother, so I don't know if she went through some childhood trauma and then, kind of had to be in her masculine. She was a single mom. So, like I said, my biological father wasn't around. So I wonder if that put some pressure on her as well, as literally having to be in that masculine, having full responsibility of raising me and, being the provider, being the mother and father, So I wonder how that affected her as far as like raising me, and maybe that caused, me to have the same issues as I went into womanhood.
I think everybody has a background, right? And an upbringing. Some of us had a more traumatic, maybe upbringing than others, but nonetheless, we all had some sort of influence, right? And it's what you're describing. But I think there has to come a point in your life, right, where you have to take ownership of your own life and the decisions that you're going to make moving forward, right? And that's kind of, are you referring on what did you change and do you pass that on to your kids? I really believe it comes down to how self-conscious you are or how in tune you are with yourself, so that you can actually make a change, because I think I've even met people where they're trying to correct, but they're trying to overcome so much that is the complete opposite. And now, because, then because you're feminine and you have the feminine power, and then all of a sudden they want to rip away the masculine side that we all still need for balance, and vice versa. So I think in order to have somewhat of a better journey with their kids, I think number one, it comes down to have self conversation on being tuned on the healing journey that you have, and that you're actually making progress. And as your relationship with your kids develop, to also have that open relationship where you can talk about those things, and that we create a safe space for them to communicate back to you. I think that's really the only way that you're going to be able to really make an impact without creating more damage than actually help or bettering on the generational healing.
Right.
I think I've seen it many a times in my life, not only with my mom, but how I've kind of put it on my boys too. I have two boys. So I think with my oldest son, as him seeing me as a single mom for a short period of, for 7 years before we met his dad, but he saw how I carried everything on my shoulders. And I think that there was so much masculine energy that I was taking on because I had to take care of him, that he looks at women now like women need to be strong. Women need to be able to do things on their own. That's how I was raised. That's what I saw. So I think that kind of affects him in a certain way because he's forgetting that it's just not the masculine side of a woman that he needs that softer side of a woman that takes care of him, that helps him, that nurtures him in a way. He needs a partner. And, so I feel like on my end with that energy, I think that's what he's like hyper focused on, is the fact that women need to be a certain way because mom was this way. Right. Mom didn't fall on her face. Mom didn't do this. She just kept going, kept going, kept going. Not all women are built that way.
Right.
Some women are more stuck on the feminine side than they are on the masculine side
Mhm.
because they want someone to come in and help them and take care of them. But men are the same way. Sometimes they don't want to be in their masculine all the time. They want to be in some part of their feminine. They want a partner that'll help them take care of them. Some never seen it. So I think it goes both ways. But I definitely got the masculine energy from my mom. 1000%. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there has to be a fine balance between the masculine and the feminine. And like you say, in order to be in healthy relationships, we as women, have to be able to be that soft, place for them to land,
Mhm.
for our masculine man to land. But if he hasn't really fully come into his own masculinity, then we talk a lot about, or we hear a lot about, like, in social media and just in society in general, like the toxic masculinity, which is what you were referring to, Linda. um but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, actually being comfortable, as a provider in all its forms, not
Mhm.
just financial, providing financially for the family, for his woman, for the house, but in all ways being a protector, emotional support, being there for his woman. Because we as women, even though we are feminines, we do need that soft space, that soft place to land as well.
As does a man, though.
Yes, that's what I was
Because
saying. Yeah.
some women are so feminine focused that they forget that sometimes that masculine side tears down their partner.
Yes.
And you're taking something from them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to know when to pull back and let him take the reins or let her take the reins. This is like a really, especially now, the way the world is today, this is such a huge topic because I think a lot of women, and it's just my opinion, we get so stuck in that masculine energy that's why we can't find a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so stuck on, I'm independent, I pay my own bills, I don't need you, I don't da 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 da. It's not about that. At the end of the day, you want to find your partner. You want someone that can be there for you. You want someone that you can land on, like you said. That soft space where you can be you, where you can let your hair down, where you don't need to worry about anything else but being loved.
Right.
And I think we get so tangled up in that. It's just sad.
And finding that safe space where you do want to, like, be yourself 100%. I mean, I can tell you from my own experience, like, there hasn't been anybody really, in my past, my recent past, I would say, that has ever seen the real me, because I haven't found that person to really, like, be myself with and not feel like I'm going to get judged, or, like, sometimes I'll say certain things and people give me this weird look, especially men, this weird look, like, like, because I am of the age that I am, and I'm opinionated, and I have all this life experience. I've been there, done that. I've gone through it, been in the trenches. And so now when I have certain opinions about stuff and I want to be able to share that with a man, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident in the relationship that he's not going to judge me or run out the door when things get hard, or, tell me, no, you're wrong. Like, you should be this, you should be that, I mean, and I think definitely with, I don't conform to societal norms because I'm not a feminist. I'm not as independent as I am, as so deep in my masculinity that I am in. I don't want to be a man. We were talking earlier before we started recording that, I ran into something on social media that said, yeah, I think I want to try marriage again and this time I want to be the wife because last time I had to be the husband. So, I mean, it's just, how
it's so true. Though.
Finding that balance, though, that balance. And I think you're right. It's like we have gotten so far away from searching, like dating and in search of partnership, not just companionship, because anybody can go with you to the movies. Anybody can go hang out at the bar. Anybody, Anybody can. Any man can. But who's going to be in partnership? The one man that's going to be in partnership with you that is going to be so strong and steady in his masculinity that he will allow you to be fully in your feminine. And then when he needs that, he needs you to be that rock, he needs that support, then he knows that, hey, you know what, she's not going to be so far into her femininity, she'll kind of be that rock and be that support system for me, like I'll go underneath your arm and help you walk when you bust your ankle, you know what I'm saying, like that type of thing. It's like being the support system for each other. I think it's a fine balance.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the same time, I think you hit it on the nail when you said about feeling comfortable and trusting your partner to be that person, because I think a lot of times we don't give 100% of ourselves, right? Because we are afraid, whether it's afraid to get hurt or afraid to be judged,
afraid to communicate.
Yes.
That's a big one.
So we end up getting lost of who we are and who we truly want to be, because now we're almost walking on eggshells of like, okay, I don't want to say this or act this way because it might be too much for them.
Right. That's a good point. Very good point. So have you guys had any experiences as far as like having to be, or what's the most important memory that you have where you have had to be like fully deep in your masculine, where you just literally had no choice and you just had to be that tough, strong woman when down deep inside, you're like falling apart?
You're actually the little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crying out, but you can't because everybody else around you expects you to be the strong root of whatever the situation is. I mean, girl, I can go back to my childhood. And again, we're all Hispanic, so we understand the masculine and feminine side, because think about it. Hispanic women are usually super masculine to a certain point because that's how we were raised, right? No man can put you second. You always have to be there for your husband. You have to be that rock of the family. You have to take care of the kids. You have to work. You have to clean. You have to do everything. So there's no time for you to be feminine when you have a family, because you're constantly in your masculine taking care of everyone, right? And I mean, that's our culture through and through. I don't know. What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, I think another aspect that has made an influence, especially in the Hispanic world, is we come from generations where our people led men to believe that just bringing money to the table was enough. That made you a man.
For sure.
You know? And that carries on, where I think current generations are doing much better at trying to be like present fathers than they were back in the day. But there's a lot of brokenness that has come through trying to fix it or becoming someone else, because we've never seen it. We've never seen it around us, what's actually healthy masculinity, where you can be a man, but you can also go and, cry with your wife or with your kid when they're going through something tough, But since it's never been shown to us, it's so hard to find the balance of where our man can be strong enough and be soft enough with a big call, sissy or something. Weak. So that's a whole other aspect that influences the ability to be able to carry your masculinity well, and even be in a comfortable spot or environment where you can tune into your feminine side as a guy, and vice versa for a girl.
Right. Good points. Yeah, so what else about balancing our feminine and masculine energy? What do you guys think about, like, we talk about society and this, the feminist movement? Yeah. I'm saying the word like, wait, it didn't sound right to me.
I was watching, I think it was a podcast not too long ago that they were talking about that the feminist movement has taken away so much from women being able to be women,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be actually feminine. Because I think I'll have to look for it and let you guys know who who it was, but the way that it was worded, it was perfectly worded that now the new generation is taking that feminist active march and is misconstruing what a feminist leader or a feminist woman is actually about. We have come such a long way as women to have the rights that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we have to remember that it's okay to be a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to fall back, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to have help. It's okay. And that's where I think we've lost all that with the new generation, is the fact that women now expect way too much out of men. Let's be honest. And no man bashing, I promise. But men, like Linda said, they were built to be a certain way.
Yes.
And sometimes we have to let them be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they have to let us be us.
Right.
You know? And still, like you said, be okay with our opinions and that's how you develop a partnership, a healthy partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. Actually, I have. I have. I had a family that I used to call mom and dad in New York, and the one that I called mom, she was very feminine when she needed to be with her husband, but she was also very masculine, very soft. And they were married to the time she passed away.
Oh.
And it was a beautiful thing to watch. Like, he would be like, let me talk to Carmen, and then I'll get back to you. Or, Mama, what do you need? Or something like that. She would tell him. Like, just the allowance of that, they both gave each other what each other needed. It was pretty amazing to see and unfold.
Mm-hmm.
So to see that was, and I'm like I told you, they were married for years until she passed away, and it was just, they were always together holding hands. He would always open the door for her. Like, it was just the most amazing thing I think I ever saw in my life, because it was something I didn't grow up with and I didn't see ever. So just to watch her being as strong as she was, and sometimes when he couldn't, she could. It was just an amazing dynamic to see. And I mean, they have two awesome sons too, that have careers and are loving and caring, and so they did like a fantastic job showing them the example of what a loving couple was. So may she rest in peace, because she was amazing. She really was.
That is awesome.
Well, and what has been surprising to me is the difference of what the feminist movement represents. I think the very beginning, the initial thought was equality, right? About women being able to vote, about equality in the workplace. And I think it's crazy how what we are putting out there, right, in social media, into the news, what our kids are listening to, it's none of that. What they're listening to is about body representation and men feeling like women, these different things. And let's be honest, it's never been about that. It's about feeling empowered, because again, talking about what our men are used to and how they've been built, right? Just like that has to change, we've had to change as women as well, right? And I think that's part of the confusion about jumping into our masculinity when we should be on our feminine side, is comes from our previous generations of, lack of respect, or whatever you want to call it, where, let's be honest, women were a tool. But trophy wife, make sure you're cooking and you're home and you're raising the kids, and that's all you're doing. So there wasn't any real value in society other than raising the next generation.
Right.
So when the feminist movement came out, it was about representing us, because we are more than just a trophy wife. We're more than just, we're capable of so much more. And the feminine side that we have is important in the design world, in medicine, and so many aspects. We need that, and we still need that, right? But unfortunately, now this movement has turned it around, where what really matters is not what matters anymore. It's about other types of representation, and that's also hindering the way that we're, our perspective, or the next generation, our kids are seeing, um, and it's wrong. That's not what really being a feminist is about.
I agree. I think as women, we need to find our way back, especially the younger generation. And I know you kind of represent the younger generation, within our group here. But I see a lot, like I think I said on our first, podcast, that you're a younger person, but with an old soul. And I think that your views on life and your viewpoints and the things that you value, family, motherhood, children, like everything within relationships, I think actually are, they align with the older generations, myself included, and then, even beyond that. So I think that the younger generation now needs to kind of refocus and really try to get to a place to where they own their femininity, but also they also celebrate and embrace their masculinity, but not being taught and not listening to whatever social media is throwing out there. I mean, everything, social media is all about trends, right? What is trending here and now. But and I think young women get kind of sucked into that, to where they feel like they have to follow a certain thing, or, well, wait, I don't think that way, or that's not what my mom does, that's not what I see with my mom. Like, I think the perfect example that we can set for our children is a loving, healthy relationship where we are fully in our feminine. But when we need to be, when we need to, like, kind of dip into our masculine side, then we're there. So they do see us as strong women, but also who can be sort of submissive to our partners because we feel safe in that relationship. And that's what it boils down to, is feeling safe and not having to be really like fully immersed in one or the other. Like I said before, there's a fine balance of our masculine and our feminine side. But us as women, I think we really have to teach our younger women, our younger friends, our daughters, I have daughters that are 19, almost 19 and 25. So, teaching them to like really be fully in their feminine, embrace that. And yes, be hardworking. Yes, be a career woman, and we can't have it all, because that's how we were taught. We can have it all, right? If that's what you want. But also don't forget about that softer side of yourself. Don't lose that. Don't lose that softer side because, you have to make yourself hard because of societal norms. So,
I think women forget that behind a strong king, there was always a strong queen,
yes.
always advising the king.
Mm-hmm.
And in a relationship, that's where we should be. Because
Yes.
the queen always had that feminine side, but she always had that masculine side.
Yes.
And she knew when to bring it out for her partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to learn how to do that as well in the back end.
And part of that masculinity, I think, is when you said that, it kind of triggered something, or not triggered, but triggered a thought. Part of that masculinity is knowing that you don't have to be front and center. You don't have to be show up as the boss. You don't have to be like, yeah, my man, he does whatever I say, what I say goes, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, but nobody's like looking at you like, ooh, you go, girl, like queen, whatever. Like, not in that term, right?
Mhm.
Just in this derogatory term. And I am being sarcastic. But I think we hear terms again in, like, on social media and just in society in general, this boss bitch, whatever, boss mentality. Sure, you can be that, but you're not a man. At the end of the day, you are not a man. And our role is really to be that supportive role with our partner. Let him lead, but you guide him.
Mm-hmm.
Give him that support, give him that guidance, give him that, again, those are opinions and what we think is right and wrong. Like, steer him in the right direction. If we see that he's going way off path, like, hey honey, maybe we should stop and ask for directions.
Yeah.
And really be that person that they can depend on too, because they're always looking for somebody to help them too. I mean, any man will tell you, yeah, they feel the pressure of having to always be the one in charge, but knowing that you can fall back and be like, yeah, I've got this to the world. But then, hey, honey, on the side,
What do you think?
what do you think? Yeah, like, should we do this? Should we do that? Da da da. Yes, and then making those decisions as partners together, like, that's how you build an empire, and that's how you support your king. As
You can be a boss bitch and still be soft.
Yes.
You don't have to be a bitch.
Hard, right?
You can be a boss and still be feminine and still be, in the moment. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think nowadays the boss bitch and the masculine energy is what takes over, and again, that's where we forget how to be feminine.
Yeah, we do.
And with that said, we want to encourage our listeners to tune into themselves, find the balance within, be comfortable, put your guard down so you can be comfortable in your feminine and your masculine, and find your balance so you can be happy.
Very well said.
Perfect.
Well, ladies, this has been super entertaining. I think a little deeper than our first one, but
yeah,
we're right at that moment. I think we're over 30 minutes at this point, but I think it's a good place to stop. And then until next time, right?
Until next time, ladies and gents.
Thanks for joining us on Chats con Sabor.